Greetings, clariphonetics. It's Friday evening, and I thought that I would do something really exciting for you tonight because most of you I know are at home, sequestered in your domiciles or whatever. I thought I would just present a little clarinet video for you to think about. And the impetus for that is sort of related to what we've been doing on double lip playing. But it's also related to what we've been doing with reed finishing, and I've tied those things together because you really can't play French embouchure correctly, with the reeds out of the box. You can't really play correctly at all with almost any of the reeds out of the box, single lip or double lip or however many lips you might have. So let me get back to my point here. As I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were actually working on reeds today. That's what clarinet players do for fun. Yeah, fun. Anyway, we were working on reeds and practicing social distancing, of course. We wouldn't want to offend anyone in government. But we were working on reeds and talking about that. And we began to talk about a certain very famous teacher. I'm not going to mention his name. But if I mentioned it, almost all of you would probably know who I was talking about. And I'd never studied with the guy, but I'd taught his students, and I'd also seen his students perform. This is when I was living in New England, and but my friend had studied with him, and we talked about how critical it is to have really good reeds and have to be able to play really good reeds all the time in order to play correctly. Anything skewed in the reed is going to skew what you could do behind your nose. And you're not going to be able to play correctly, so you're going to work harder. But also, combined with the lesser reed and the harder work, you actually get less results. And the listener, at least subliminally, feels how hard you're working, and it makes them uncomfortable. It takes away from your technical performance, your enjoyment of the performance yourself, and also takes away from the listeners. But we're not going to worry about listeners, okay? And we're not even going to worry about famous teachers. But except that my friend said that this famous teacher, who was very famous for teaching clarinet, that he knew nothing about reeds. He knew nothing about mouthpieces. He never talked to him about adjusting reeds or fixing reeds. And I also saw that same teacher's students struggle in performance and have all kinds of problems in their performance because they were playing ridiculous reeds that were terribly balanced, were breathy sounding, that were uneven in response, and they struggled and worked so very hard to play the pieces that had they been assigned, this teacher had assigned them. Yet this teacher was famous and had all kinds of students coming to him all the time. And I was told by one of those students that, if you were really talented and you're really good already, then he would promote you and put you up and all that stuff. But if the student, if you came to him and you were struggling and stuff, you wouldn't see much improvement at all. And then when you didn't improve, he would sort of abandon you. Now, this sort of leads me off to a sideline to say this about a teacher. A good teacher improves every student that comes to them that makes a decent effort. Period. If you should, as a teacher, if you're a true teacher, you should be able to take any student where they are, if they make any reasonable efforts, and make them a better player, make them a more confident player, and improve them in their enjoyment in playing. And of course, your more talented students are going to get right on down the line. Good teachers aren't good teachers because good students already come to them and already have an enormous amount of native ability and so on and so forth. A good teacher is a teacher who knows his art, who knows his craft, and who knows how to relate it. And he also knows something else, and it's going to be the thing that's really part of the heart of my subject, and that is you need to work on your students' reeds. Your students are not going to play any better. They're going to struggle. They're not going to make the progress that they should. They're not going to enjoy clarinet playing like they might, and they might even give up because they're always struggling with reeds, and it's not satisfying to practice. Now, if you don't know how to balance reeds and you're a teacher, then you are selling your students severely short, not to mention yourself. You need to learn how to do this so your students are playing on good, well-balanced reeds all the time. And I don't mean like sort of fake around on it or just hack around on the reed. I mean you need to learn, like the material in the ATG system. There's I don't know, about 40 minutes of demonstration and education and stuff like that that go along with the reed system. You get other reed systems, they give you, a slap on the back and here's the product, give me the money, good luck. But in the reed system that I give you, at least what I do is I give you the tools, the simplest tools, and the easiest tools to get the best results. And then I give you a basic education. That's intellectual property. I share it with you. I know people go study with teachers that get $300 an hour, $350, charge them $400 or $500 for a couple hours session on reeds, and they come back really not being able to do much better. No, you need an education on how to test reeds, which is what I show you, and how to evaluate reeds. Because if you can't test, every time you put a knife to a reed or every time you put like one of these finishing tools to a reed, you're just guessing. You can't do that. You have to know what you're doing when you're working on reeds. So really learn that skill. It's absolutely part of being a clarinet player. It's a part of your art and it's a part of your craft. And if you avoid it, you do it to your detriment, but especially your students' detriments if you're a devoted teacher. You've got to learn how to do this. Now, there are a lot of benefits. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. You're going to have to actually become thoughtful about playing the clarinet and thoughtful about evaluating reeds and all that. You have to develop a new set of skills to test the reed properly. Okay, all that takes time. All that takes effort. All right, that's fine. And it's going to benefit you. But the main thing is when you are able to really balance your students' reeds well, and eventually teach your students how to balance reeds, then the benefit is going to be enormous. First of all, your students are going to be much more successful. Second of all, they're going to be able to play correctly behind their nose. They're going to be able to develop the tone production habits that you wanted them to develop and you've been trying to get them to develop. And they're going to practice more because guess what? As you know, I don't have to even spell this out. Everybody knows when you got a good reed to play, it's fun to play, isn't it? It's really fun, yeah. So make that fun for your students by giving them really good reeds to play. Teach them the mechanics that they need behind their nose. Later on, teach them how to balance reeds and how to work on reeds. But this is the one key, this is one of the biggest single failings of teachers, is that they just, they don't work on their students' reeds. They don't know how to work on their reeds themselves. They're at the mercy of the box of reeds, and they just pull out and they just hope that they'll find one that's going to work. And then the rest are the practice reeds, which are terrible, and you practice on them, and they mess you up and mess up your own habits. Well, what do you think they're doing to your students? Okay, so this is my thing, if I had to impress anything on anybody, besides all the educational material I've given, on tone production and tone mechanics and French embouchure playing and reeds and mouthpieces and so on and so forth, it's that you have to gain some mastery of reed finishing if you're going to be a competent teacher. If I couldn't fix my students' reeds, if I couldn't help them, why would they come study with me? Because they can learn just as much of what I have to teach with a set of fingering books and maybe studying with a really good musician, like a real fine oboist or a fine cellist or something like that. When you're a clarinet teacher, you teach the students clarinet-specific information. You don't just sit there and assign them and check off etudes and give them a little fingering here or give them a little time. Well, maybe just hold a little time on that, a little more retard there. Maybe you could do the dynamics. That's not teaching the clarinet. That's not teaching the clarinet is learning to master the craft, the artisanship of the clarinet. And if you give the student good equipment, good reeds, so that they're free and they have confidence and security when they're playing, the artist in them will come out. The artisanship is going to facilitate the artistry. The craft is going to make the poetry fluid. Okay, that's simply the way it is. And until then, you're going to have your students struggling, and they're going to be playing bad reeds. They're going to be messing up their chops in the process, and so it's going to be more and more difficult. And they're going to practice less and less and less, and play video games more and more. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so this is my message to you. It's not a pleasant message, but it's a message that's aimed at you to benefit your students, to give them what they really need in order to make some real progress. And you're going to see some kids that are really happy and staying with the clarinet and making improvements. And even if they don't become professionals, most of them won't, they're going to have a wonderful time playing the clarinet lifelong, instead of storing the clarinet in the closet after their senior year in high school. Okay, so I hope you all are doing good, and stay safe and take care of yourselves. Get out in the sun. Vitamin D, big, big, big help. Okay, love that vitamin D, and the best place to get vitamin D is just sitting right out there free. They don't recommend it, of course, the pharmaceuticals, because they can't charge you for sitting in the sun. There you go. That's a happy note.